IVM.
The Inheritors Podcast Series by Bloomberg Quint.
Welcome to The Inheritors, a podcast series that talks of all aspects of family businesses. I am Sonu Bhasin, and today I'm in conversation with Varun Gupta, Director, KENT RO Systems. Varun is a second-generation inheritor, and he talks to me today about how an illness in the family actually was the genesis of the business, which is today almost 1,000 crore business. He also talks to me about how the early learnings that he had when his dad made him work at the shop floor in an open office, how these learnings have stayed with him. So without much further ado, let's go right across to Varun Gupta in his office in Noida and talk to him about his business, his life, and his journey. Hi, Varun. Welcome to the podcast series, and it's a pleasure to have you here with us, talking to our listeners about you, your journey, and yourself. So welcome.
Thank you, Sonuji. The pleasure is mine.
Great, super. So, Varun, it's often said that necessity is the mother of all inventions, and it couldn't be truer than for the business of Kent. I believe it was because of an illness that you and your sister had that this whole big business came about?
Yeah, that's the reason that seeded this Kent water purifier business.
Yes.
So when I was, I think I was in 10th standard. My sister is 2 years older to me. She was in 12th standard. We both had jaundice at that point in time, and back in 99, I think it was, we were drinking water that was coming up from the tap, the municipal water. And the doctors recommended that, maybe it's time that we have a water purifier in our home. And my dad, he's a technocrat, an engineer. He said, okay, why not, let's get something which was available in the market at that point in time. And then we did fix it in our homes after the recommendation from the doctor. Soon after, he was visiting Taiwan, I think, wherein he came across RO technology, which was, kind of getting established in homes and offices. It was always existent in the commercial space in industrial water treatment, but not implemented in a very big way in homes.
Yeah, if I remember the late 90s, the only purifiers used to be the Eureka Forbes water purifiers for homes.
Yes, at that point in time, AquaGuard, which is their brand name, was synonymous with water purifiers. People used to say, "Tumhare ghar AquaGuard hai ki nahi?" That was the kind of thing. The statements people used to make. So it became synonymous with the name water purifier itself.
Yeah. And reverse osmosis was not something that most people had heard about, and RO wasn't something that people in the homes had heard about. And
that technology was non-existent in the homes in India. It was there in industrial segment, but then also very few people knew about it.
Yeah. So how did your father decide that he had to bring it into the homes?
Well, I think since, as I said earlier, he's an engineer, he went to IIT, so his engineering mind was always, looking for better things. And then when he realized and understood that, in India, the quality of water is getting bad day by day, and he realized that RO is a far more superior technology compared to what was available in the market at that point in time. He thought maybe, okay, let's give it a shot. Let me get 1 unit for our home, try it out, and, he loved it. In fact, the whole family loved it, because what RO does is it removes what is dissolved in water, whereas the water purifiers which were available at that point in time were only disinfecting. They were only removing bacteria and virus from water. So when you removed dissolved impurities from water, it actually improves the taste of the water. And taste was something that we all loved in our homes. And then, we bought in a few more units. We gave it in our extended family. Everyone were amazed by the quality of water that was coming out. And then he saw great business opportunity. Of course, he did not have a very big setup at that point in time. He was doing a small business which was in the field of oil testing instruments. He had an idea how to run a business, but of course, that was more of a B2B business. He was planning to venture into B2C, and because the product and the offering were amazing, people accepted and started adopting the technology.
But if for a pioneering product in the Indian market, which I assume is at a cost that is higher than what was available, what were the challenges that your dad faced at that time? And were you old enough to understand those challenges? Did he talk to you about the business? Were you involved in it in any way?
I would say that most of the talks were more of dinner table talks. And also for the fact that, when we were staying in, that when he started the business, we were staying on the ground floor and he was operating out of the first floor, which was his office, small office. So, of course, there was a little bit of alignment in terms of what he was doing, but he did not discuss the challenges faced with me at that point in time. But of course, when I joined the business in 2005, I learned about the challenges that he used to face when he launched the business, and then how he fought through them, found his way out, and make Kent a very successful brand today.
Yeah, so let's not jump straight to 2005. Okay. Let's just spend a little more time in understanding what you did. Were you interested in the business itself? And I'm told, and you've spoken to me earlier as well, that you were a geek, you were a techie. And yes, that it was something that really excited you, and that rather than watch Cartoon Network, you would prefer to tinker around with technology. Right. So do take us all through your growing up years.
Like after 99, like after Kent started, or you want me to talk before?
Yeah, whenever. I mean, from the time that you remember that there was a family business and that your dad was doing something that was different in the market.
Well, since our office was always on the first floor of our house, so, for me to go to the office just to, talk to a few people, chill around, because my mom also used to assist my dad. Every time when we used to come back from school after having a lunch, we just used to take sit for some time in the office, meet all the employees who were working there. And, kind of understood, of course, always had an idea of the products that my father was dealing in that point in time. And of course, to a certain extent also learning the new things he was planning to do at that point in time. The discussions were not very business oriented with him. The discussions were more like, I'm thinking about launching this product in the market. Of course, he would not take our opinion because he thought we were naive at that point in time and did not have much idea of how business is run. But he kept us informed on what new things he was planning to launch in the market. And before the water purifier business, of course, he tried a couple of things in his old business, and he used to talk about it with the family.
Yeah.
So that we were always aware about what he's looking into. And that point in time in late 90s, there was a huge telecom boom which happened in India. And he also wanted to get something into that line, and that was one of the reasons he was traveling to Taiwan. But apparently found something which, the water purifier kind of stuck to him, the whole idea of a new technology. One of the biggest challenges I remember he faced at that point in time was, handling, switching or, knowing more about a B2C business from a B2B business. And the fact that at that point in time, the other water purifiers which were available in the market were in the price range of 6,000 to 8,000, whereas RO technology, being expensive and being a small-time trader come manufacturer, he was selling it at 20,000 rupees. That was almost 3x of the price for a brand which was synonymous with water purifier in India. So that was his biggest challenge at that point in time, how to convince customers to pay 3x the price with no history in terms of having a brand which has no history in B2C market.
Yeah.
But I think he always focused on, one thing which I've learned always from him. It's how you propose your product to the consumers. a lot of people do that mistake of talking about the features. And, but what I've learned from it, every time you want to sell something, you should always talk about the benefits, because that's what consumers understand. They don't care about the features. They always care about how it will, impact their lives, how it will make their lives better. So you always focus on that part, talking only about the benefits of using an RO purifier. And, slowly that idea started coming in people's minds, and they started understanding, okay, RO is different than UV, which was there in the market at that point in time. And also, he kept hammering, and he made very simple claims in his advertisements only about the benefits. Never tried to give the technology gyan to the consumers, because as consumers, we are, unless we are aligned to a certain field, we don't want to hear about that technology. We always want to hear about the benefits.
Yeah, because consumers don't understand technology, but they understand what difference does the product or the service make in their lives. So this was late 90s, and then you say that you joined the business in 2005.
Yes.
So did you work outside the business at any time?
I did one internship. So after, I was always a tech geek. I always wanted to be a computer engineer. And of course, I eventually did that. So I did my engineering from Purdue University in the US. I went there after my 12th. And I did get a chance to do an internship, a geeky internship in a place called Fermi National Accelerator Lab. That was the biggest particle accelerator, at that point in time before CERN took that stock.
And do you use any of that particle acceleration bit in purifying the water?
No, nothing.
No, you don't accelerate any particles
No, that's all atomic physics, and really what scientists do, and that was beyond my understanding. I was just helping them do a project which required some assistance of an intern. But of course, I did not do anything of the subatomic level physics after that.
Right. So then what prompted you to come back and join the family business?
There were two reasons to it. One, I always wanted to come back to the country. The reason being, I always appreciated my, the presence of the family around me. Second, India, things were opening up, and India looked as a great opportunity to come back and do something good for the country. And of course, my dad played a very pivotal role in convincing me to come back, because he said that's where the opportunity is. Of course, you can stay in the US, have a good lifestyle, have a better standards of living, but the opportunity that you will get in India would be very amazing, because India is going through a great, amazing growth curve. And if you are part of that growth story, then you can do wonders for yourself professionally and personally both.
So was it overt pressure? Did you feel pressurized? Because you must have been a young or a late teenager or a man in early 20s,
yes,
living the good life, I presume, in the US away from family. So did you kind of feel pressurized when your dad said that you must come back?
I wouldn't say I was pressurized, but my idea was that I wanted to spend maybe 2-3 years or 4 years in the US before coming back to the India. That's the idea I had in my mind that time. And I, in fact, had a job opportunity also to work in the US right after college. And when I told that thing to my dad, he was like, "You are absolutely not doing that. Like, you just pack your bags and come back."
And if you don't pack your bags and come back, we will come and pack your bags for you.
Yeah, we will just drag you out from the US back to India.
Yeah. So
I know it was so quick. I remember the day we had a graduation ceremony. I took the flight in the night. So he was like, "You are not going to spend time enjoying over there. Enough is done. Now come back and start." Doing some real work. So
no graduation party for you, Varun. That's really so sad.
No, there was a party, but parties happen before the the official ceremony. After the exams are over, you party for a few days, and then of course graduation ceremony. After the ceremony, I just flew back. Okay. I in fact also worked with him in one of the summer breaks in the business, and that was more on the factory line. He was like, "You should understand how products are made and at least have some kind of understanding in how this business is being done." So I spent 2 months of my last year, the summer break in the last year, in the factory, understanding how the water purifiers are being built.
Right. And then when you did come back in the mid 2000s and you did start working with your father, what were those initial years like? Was it easy? Did you find it easy to slip back into a role, from where you'd left off as an intern in the business? What were some of the challenges? Because you see, there are millions of these young inheritors who come back into the business. And some of them go through challenges, some of them don't. So it would make a lot of impact if you talk about your early years.
Well, when you get into the business for the first time, you just want to do everything your way, right? That's the normal thought process that anyone has. I also felt that, I used to always pick things, okay, this is not done in the right way, that is not done in the right way, and, you need to fix this and you should do it this way without having the experience of actually doing it, right? It's easy to point fingers.
And did people say कि, America से पढ़ के आया है, नए ख्याल लेके आया है, he's come back with these newfangled ideas. He doesn't know what happens really.
So I think to put that thing straight, my dad did a very wonderful job. He actually gave me a very low position in the company. Okay. I did not have a room to myself. I just had a desk in the office. And he was like, you have to learn everything from scratch. He was like, okay, you spent 2 months internship, that's okay. You had some leisure time. But now you have to get serious about it. You will start from the factory, the assembly line. So, I remember for the first 2 months, I was just standing at the assembly line, figuring out how things are done and, ensuring daily production targets are being met. Again, back in 2005, it was still a fairly small business. I think we were selling, 1,000 odd units in a month, or maybe less, 500. I don't remember I don't have the exact number in my mind, but it was fairly small. It was a small assembly line. Not even assembly line, it was more of an assembly station. And he was like, you need to understand, at least start ensuring that we're getting the right assembly numbers. If you're facing issues related to hiring the people who will work on the assembly line, you will do the hiring, you will do the assessment. So that was my initial 6-7 months, purely from a technical point of view, understanding all those things. Then it later moved on. He was like, okay, now you understand what are the different components which are being used and how they are being put into manufacturing. You should start looking into procurement of those components. Right. And of course, he did not, he put me under, I think that time it was a general manager purchase or something. And he said, you're going to report to him. I just need a weekly MIS from you. You're not going to, you will come with this GM and you will give me a monthly MIS of what you're doing on purchase. So I remember being, traveling with my purchase executives on their motorcycles, sitting behind them, going from one vendor to other vendor. It was a very simple profile. But he ensured that I was more, I knew about the groundwork before I started taking bigger responsibilities. And in the 1.5 years, mostly it was back-end operations. Then I, of course, started looking into customer service after that. I gained that experience of 1.5 years. And then after that, I told him, okay, Dad, these are the few things we need to change in the business so that we can increase our efficiency. Right. And then he started actually looking into my ideas. Before it was like, I was talking about it. He would say, yeah, it's okay. Put it on a piece of paper and give it to me, right? That was the instructions at that point in time. But I think after 1.5 years, he understood that I've got the grip. Or if not the grip, I've understood many aspects and different ways the business is being run. And I think we took a very big step at that point in time. I told him that, we have to grow, we have to start selling in different regions. And, it was an all paper-based office. We had a simple tally software which was managing our accounts. And it was all paper-based. Everyone was filling forms to put orders, invoices were also made by hand. Even purchase departments, inventory management was happening on Excel sheets. So, there was a lot of chances of errors and there was a lot of duplication of work. And I told him that, okay, let's take the big step and implement a standardized ERP in our company, which is like an enterprise level software on which, your financials, your sales, your purchase, your warehousing, your stock transfer, everything runs on a single package. And I said, I am being a computer nerd, I understand most of the stuff. So why don't you give me a responsibility to implement this? And I think that was a big pivot in our whole growth story, because we successfully implemented that, and I kind of overlooked that project. And that gave me an idea into every department, every aspect of the business, because if you have to bring the whole business on a single platform, on a single software solution, you need to understand all the business processes.
Right.
And that 6-month effort was an eye-opener for me in terms of understanding how different things are done in a business. And I successfully implemented that, and that whole exercise kind of helped us, build a good foundation for the operations of our business. Until date, he still appreciates that fact. If you hadn't done it, we would have never grown, or we would have never sustained this growth.
Right.
So that was what I think one of my big achievements within the family business.
Right. So you earned the right to give suggestions to your father and the business.
Right.
But let me take you back when you were sitting behind somebody's motorbike and going around in the heat. 2 questions. One is, did at any time this thought cross your mind कि मैं यहाँ पे क्या कर रहा हूँ, मैं तो अमेरिका में ज़्यादा अच्छा था, यहाँ पे देखो मुझे ये करना पड़ा है?
No, that never came across the mind, because I think I was learning a lot and I was enjoying what I was learning.
Okay.
Because, it was not about that, he's asked me to do this, and, I was not getting bored doing that.
Yeah.
Every time I got exposed to a new business process, I enjoyed learning it. Sometimes, things did not make sense to me initially. I'll be very honest. I did not understand a lot of accounting because I had never taken any educational class related to it. And, that was altogether new for me, whole accounting things. But, that I kind of did not even focus that much in terms of learning about it till the time I thought it was important to learn about the finance and accounting of business also.
Yeah.
So that was the area I kind of ignored initially. But eventually, of course, you have to learn all the things to run the business.
Yeah. So that was my first question. And my second question was that it was okay for your dad to say, okay, sit in an open office and work with other people. How did the others?
He wanted me to do that.
No, so
I in fact got a shared room, my own room, with which I was sharing with my GM purchase. 3.5 years after I joined the business.
Right.
Till then, I was sitting in open desk somewhere in the office.
Right. How did what I really want to understand is, how did the others deal with you? How did they react to you? Because you may be sitting with them in an open office, but at the end of the day, you're the boss's son, you're the owner's son.
Well, I think...
did they have lunch with you, or did you have lunch alone? What did you do?
I used to once in a while have lunch with those guys also. Those whom I still have those people who still work with us. I remember there's a gentleman by the name of Anurag, with whom I've traveled numerous times on his bike, sitting behind him as a pillion. So, he's still there. And of course, he has also grown in the organization. But, it was okay. There were certain people, I'll be very honest, there were certain people who kind of felt nepotism is not the right way in the organization, and they always thought, just because I'm the owner's son, they don't have to take instructions from me. And that came across quite a bit when our ERP was getting implemented, because I had to understand the business process to implement it in the ERP. And many times they were not comfortable in, learning or, hearing out from me, maybe, this is a better way to do it. Let's try to change the process so that we can adapt to the ERP. So there were those, sometimes I heard it on my face also. Couple of times people were vocal about it right on my face, that I don't have to report to you. I report to your father, and you have no right to, ask me or tell me to do something. But, given the fact that what helped people to understand that I'm earning my way through the organization was because I spent time at low level. A lot of people got to know about it, right?
Yeah.
So it was never that challenging. I remember even running service centers, hiring entry-level service technicians. I used to take their interview. I used to sit in the call center, take certain, phone calls, and, teach the agents that, this is how you're supposed to speak with the customers when they call. I used to spend some time sitting on the call center also. That was more from learning and telling them how things can be done in a good way. So, I've always believed that if you spend time with everyone in the organization, people start, finding, of course, everyone has both positives and negatives, but until you spend time with them on the floor, they will never get to know you personally. So, I spent a lot of time with all the people in the organization. Yeah. So I'm sure many people were not happy that I'm the owner's son and, calling the shots, but many of them were also happy that I earned my way through it.
Yeah, so that's very heartening to note. But now that you are 14 years after that, when you look back at that time, what are some of the learnings that you still carry with you from the time that you spent on the shop floor in an open office with people sitting behind mobiles? What are some of the learnings that still stay with you?
I think it's important to talk to your people and understand their problems. Many times when I still, I feel a lot of people make these mistakes. They don't want to get to the real issue. They just want to take decisions which they feel are right without taking or understanding from the people who are actually involved in making those decisions. So till date, I spend a lot of time on the floor. I don't spend most of the time in my own office, my own room. I just walk around the office, talk to different people. What are the challenges they are facing out? How can we improve things? How can things be done more efficiently? It's not always that I have the best idea. Even someone low in the hierarchy level may have a better idea than I have. So it's important to to hear them out. And if you hear them out, you hear different perspectives that always helps you in taking a better decision. So I've always believed in interacting with the people who are there in the office, irrespective of whatever level they are working at, which I think happened because I began at a very low level.
So people and the importance of people in any business is a key learning that I understand you took away from that time. But this people issue also becomes a bone of contention between a patriarch and an inheritor. Number of inheritors that I have spoken with talk about the fact that the patriarchs see HR or external talent as a cost, whereas the inheritors see it as an investment. Did you have a similar issue?
We still have that. It's not in the past. We still have that.
It's an ongoing issue. How do you deal with it?
It's always an ongoing issue. I've at times, tried to have a more employee-friendly HR structure. A couple of times in the last 10 years, I've done an HR reorganization in the company, and every time it boils down to, look to kaam kar lenge, why you worried so much about them. We focus on the top line, see how we can sell more. People will come and go. So my dad has a different outlook towards how to, deal with people. I have a different outlook, and we always run into this conversations that we are fighting with each other, or if not fighting, arguing with each other on how things should be handled in terms of dealing with people.
Right. And is this something, the way that you look at HR or the way that you look at people, if you think about it, would you say that it's come because of your education overseas? Is that because of the fact that you worked in a company overseas and you saw employees being treated differently? Why would you look at people differently than your father?
Well, of course, some of it you can attribute because I do have an exposure of studying outside India and seeing processes and systems outside India. Valuing the human capital is the value of human capital is very different in India and outside India. Especially there's a stark difference compared to the US and India. One of the reasons could be that. Second is I've always believed that, today it's just two of us in the organization who are taking good decisions, or even, in fact, all the major decisions. What if there were a team of 10 great people who were doing that? Of course, the business will do much better, right? It cannot always be me and my dad taking all the good decisions in the company. There should be more responsible people in the organization who should have more powers to take good decisions, because that's how the organization grows. It cannot always be two people driving the business. Okay, today we have reached 2,000 crores level, but what lies in future, we don't know, but we need to build a strong team that can grow the business in perpetuity.
Right. And whose decision was it? Was it your dad's or yours, or was it a joint decision to bring in these superstar brand ambassadors for your business?
I think that was his decision. I was still in college at that point in time. So,
and if you had to do it differently, who would you choose?
I don't know. It's difficult to say right now because Hema Malini has worked out great for the brand. So, I can't question his decision for bringing in Hema Malini ji for this as a brand ambassador.
Yeah.
So, today everyone kind of associates her to our brand. And, the great thing has been, we are one of the very few brands who have had a long-term relationship with a brand ambassador. She's been endorsing our brand for 14 years now.
Yeah.
I think I may not have the right data, but I was speaking to a professor some time ago, and they said that, you're one of the 4 brands who have crossed a decade with a celebrity for endorsing the same product. So not many people stick around for that. Not many brands stick around for that long of a time with a celebrity and a brand ambassador.
Yeah, I think that's indeed commendable. And when I did visit your office, I was speaking to the guard who was bringing me up the floors, and he was so enthused about your brand ambassador and brand ambassadoress. And there's another thing that he said which has stuck with me. He said we are allowed to take back water every day back home, which I think is really good. I mean, he works for a water company. He's allowed to take back water. I worked for a bank for many years. I was never allowed to take back money.
I wish all the banks would allow you to do that, right? So, the point is, if you can't take care of your employees, water is like the most, hamare yahan, we have this saying that pani pilana punya ka kaam hai. And we understand people who come from marginalized backgrounds. They don't have, they and their families do not have access to clean water. And today that is something that we promote in and out. And if we even can't help people who contribute towards achieving that goal, then what could I be doing for the society?
Yeah, no.
So,
I think it does speak about the ethos in the company, because it may be a small thing for you, but I could make out from the way that guard was talking about the fact that he could take back water every day, not only for himself but his family. I think it meant a great deal
most of
to
the
them.
people at the entry level do that. In our factories, that's pretty much the standard. And everyone, whatever X number of people work in the factories, everyone carries a 2-liter bottle with them.
Yeah.
So on the way back, they just fill it from the common water points, it's filtered water points that we have in our factory. And that's what we realized, that even when we sell our water purifiers to factories, we tell those people that you have to size it accordingly, because the number of employees they have, 2 liters per employee will go back to their homes. Right. So size it accordingly, because we witnessed that in our factory, and I'm sure many of our customers would also be doing that.
Yeah. No, I think it's actually a very credible story that's been built, and the fact that your product is about water and clean water. This is something that India as a country needs today. So, all the very best to you and your company. And it's really been a pleasure talking to you. And thank you for your time, Varun.
Thank you so much. It's great to share what, all the things that I faced when I joined as a second generation. And I believe, I still think that, many of second generation entrepreneurs face the common challenges. And I hope that, my story can help them, learn something from it, and so that they do not face all these challenges which I have faced.
I'm sure that it will help them, and I don't know whether it will prevent them from facing the same challenges, but it will certainly equip them
Give
better.
them a perspective of how other people have done it
to handle it. Yes. So thank you, Varun. Thank you again.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
The Inheritors Podcast Series by Bloomberg Quint.
Hey, this is Shidaditya.
And I'm Amit Doshi.
And we host Shunya One.
It's a really fun podcast where we talk to some of the best entrepreneurs in the country.
Yes, talking about everything from their startup challenges to what they're building and all the future of technologies right here.
So catch us on the IVM Podcast website, app, or wherever you listen to your podcast from.